Jaren Whitlow had been on board the Virellan Exchange Station for just under 2 weeks when he sneezed during a lecture in the xenobiology amphitheater. It wasn't a dramatic sneeze, not one of those theatrical full-body ones that startled people. It was a quick, contained, hutched into the crook of his elbow. He even sanitized his hands afterward, using the station's gel dispenser, which hissed a faint lavender mist. Still, panic erupted in Section 3. Faculty members from 3 different planetary systems recoiled. One student, a tall, grayish creature named Kelarv from the Arxan Commonwealth, dropped its data pad and backed into a support pillar. "Is the contagion airborne?" Kelarv's voice trembled as it pointed a narrow digit toward Jaren. Its 3 eyes blinked in rapid succession. Jaren blinked, sniffled, and reached for a tissue from his backpack. No, it's not like that. Pretty sure it's just a cold." "A what?" Kelarv took another step back, its skin color fading from gray into a pale lilac hue indicating distress, as Jaren had learned in his interspecies culture class. "A cold," Jaren repeated. "It's a common viral infection. Bit of a sore throat, runny nose, maybe a cough. It passes. Just wash your hands, you'll be fine." The room went quiet. The instructor, a stooped, rust-colored being named Professor Salm of the Driel Confederacy, turned all 5 of its eyes toward Jaren. "You brought an uncontrolled pathogen onto the station?" Jaren stood. "It's not uncontrolled. Humans get it all the time. There are over 100 strains, mostly rhinoviruses. It spreads mostly through droplets, sneezing, coughing, touching surfaces, but it's manageable. It's not like I'm patient zero in a zombie movie." No one laughed, especially not Kelarv, who looked like it might faint. That afternoon, Jaren was summoned to the station's health unit for a full virological screening. He sat on the padded bench while a technician, a small, translucent alien named Veti, extracted a sample from his nasal cavity using a long, flexible probe. "This will be analyzed for all known human viral agents," Veti said in a soft, almost musical tone. "Do not resist. Movement will compromise the data." "Wasn't planning on resisting," Jaren muttered, eyes watering as the probe reached a spot deep enough to make him regret ever sneezing. 3 hours later, the results came back. Human rhinovirus, strain 68B, mild, non-lethal, contagious only with direct contact or aerosolized droplets, no cross-species infectivity. The medical officer, a tall, skeletal alien named Dr. Yaldrick, handed Jaren a data slate. "You are cleared to return to public areas. However, your presence has incited unease. We recommend you wear a mask for the next 72 hours. Jaren pulled a cloth mask from his pocket. "Already ahead of you." When Kelarv spotted him the next day in the hydroponics lab, it skirted around him with an exaggerated arc and applied sanitizer to its hands every few seconds. "You're still contagious," Kelarv said, keeping a safe 6 meters away. "Probably," Jaren admitted, adjusting his mask. "But I'm being careful. I'm not touching anything without gloves, and I've logged my vitals twice today." "You should be in quarantine," Kelarv hissed. Got tested. It's not transmissible to your species." "You don't know that with certainty?" "Actually, I do," Jaren said. "The virus binds to ICM-1 receptors in the epithelial cells of the human respiratory tract. Your species doesn't have that protein. It's like trying to unlock a door with a spoon." Kelarv's eyes narrowed. "That sounds dangerously confident." "I didn't come up with it. The station's med techs did. But hey, if it helps, I brought extra sanitizer packets." Jaren held one out. Kelarv didn't move. By the end of the week, the station's administration convened a Health and Safety Council meeting. Representatives from 14 species attended. Jaren was invited to provide a human perspective, a term he quickly realized translated loosely to defendant. "Humans carry dozens of endemic pathogens," a representative from the Valnari collective said. "Even if this one is mild, what about the others?" "We're not walking petri dishes," Jaren said. "We have immune systems. You all do too. We adapt. We take precautions, and when we get sick, we isolate and recover." "You sneeze in public," another delegate said. "That is not isolation." "I sneezed into my arm," Jaren snapped. I didn't spit on anyone. Dr. Yaldrick raised a bony hand. Perhaps we are overlooking an opportunity. This incident could serve as a cultural exchange case study, how humans manage viral infections using non-pharmaceutical interventions. The idea caught traction. Within days, Jaren found himself leading a seminar titled Human Immunological Norms and Sanitary Practices. Attendance was mandatory for all first-year xenobiology students. So, Jaren began, standing in front of a projection of a cartoon human nose. The common cold isn't a singular disease. It's a collection of viruses, mostly rhinoviruses, but also coronaviruses and adenoviruses. Symptoms usually last about a week. For most of us, it's annoying, not dangerous. An insectoid student raised its claw. And yet you do not eliminate these viruses? We try, Jaren said, but they mutate quickly. Plus, the body builds immunity over time. Our immune systems learn and adapt. Kelarv interjected from the front row. Is it true you encourage exposure in children? Jaren hesitated. We don't encourage it, but we don't panic over it either. Kids get sick, they build immunity. It's a trade-off. Trying to keep a child in a sterile bubble isn't practical and actually weakens long-term immunity. Gasps rippled through the room. Another student muttered, "Savages." Jaren sighed. Look, I get it. You all evolved in environments where infection was a death sentence. We didn't. We evolved alongside our microbes. We're covered in bacteria all the time, on our skin, in our guts, in our mouths. Not all of them are bad. Silence. Most of your species sterilize everything. We can't. We've made peace with a certain level of exposure. That evening, Kelarv approached Jaren in the mess hall, still keeping distance. I reviewed your lecture materials. Your immune system is alarmingly aggressive. Jaren chuckled. It has to be. We live in a microbial soup. Earth's atmosphere is full of spores, viruses, bacteria. We've been fighting them off since birth. Kelarv sat, hesitantly. How do you function without fear of collapse? We don't avoid all risk. We manage it. Masks, hand washing, rest, hydration. And when it gets serious, we go to the doctor. That seems unstructured. It works. 2 weeks later, a drill student named Halseth began sneezing in class. The drill hadn't sneezed in over 2 centuries as a species. The station went into partial lockdown. Jaren volunteered to help in the med unit. Halseth's condition worsened quickly, shortness of breath, fever, elevated leukocyte counts. Jaren watched as Dr. Yaldrick ran a nasal swab through the analyzer. It's not a human virus, Yaldrick confirmed. This is drill-specific, a dormant strain likely reactivated by stress or environmental change. But it's spreading, Jaren asked. We have 2 more drill students showing symptoms. Kelarv appeared in the doorway. Are we all at risk now? No, Yaldrick said. Only drill. Their immune systems are unusually synchronized. It's a genetic echo effect they share, immunological responses due to their cloning-based reproduction. Jaren nodded. Okay, so we isolate them, provide supportive care, and monitor the rest of the population. Yaldrick hesitated. We've never treated this strain before. Jaren looked at the vitals monitor. You've got electrolytes, oxygenation, antivirals? We do. Then start there. Support the body while it fights. That's what we do. Yaldrick gave a slow nod. 3 days later, Halseth's fever broke. The others began to recover too. Kelarv approached Jaren outside the medbay. You helped? So did the whole team. You didn't panic. I did. I just didn't show it. Kelarv hesitated. I washed my hands after you sneezed many times. Jaren smiled. Then you'll be fine. The hydroponics lab always smelled faintly of algae and ozone, but today it was worse. Something acrid floated in the air, and Jaren wrinkled his nose as he stepped in. Rows of nutrient trays blinked with status lights, casting green and amber reflections across the floor. A few students were already in the room, but their chatter stopped when they saw him. He spotted Kelarv adjusting a circulator valve near the central lettuce array. The Arxan's posture tensed slightly, but it didn't retreat or flinch this time. I thought I'd try the nutrient infusion again, Jaren said, holding up a sealed packet of trace minerals. The last batch of kale tasted like damp cardboard. Kelarv didn't look over. That is the intended flavor profile per Drill nutritional standards. For kale? For any leafy fibrous substrate. Jaren poured the minerals into the disperser and tapped the console. No offense to Drill cuisine, but I'm trying to make something edible. Human edible. Another student, a squat, shell-plated being with a ring of eye stalks, glanced toward him warily. "Did your immune system finish attacking itself?" it asked. Jaren rested his elbow on the counter. "We're not self-destructing, we're adaptable. There's a difference. You shed viral particles." "Not right now. I don't." Kelarv finally turned. "The station's daily bulletin said your viral load is now undetectable." "See? I've been officially declared boring." "You are not," Kelarv replied flatly and returned to its valve. For a few minutes they worked in silence. Jaren recalibrated the pH sensors while the others adjusted oxygenation rates. The machinery hummed gently around them, emitting the occasional chirp. Then Kelarv asked, without looking up, "Have you ever hosted more than one virus at once?" Jaren blinked. "Yeah, all the time. It's called co-infection. Not ideal, but it happens." Kelarv's fingers paused. "And your systems do not collapse?" "They struggle, you feel awful, but most people recover. Unless it's something serious like pneumonia, then you need antibiotics." "Antibiotics," Kelarv repeated. "You ingest poison to destroy invaders?" "We call it medicine. The trick is to poison the bacteria more than yourself." "That seems blunt." "It works," Jaren said. "We've just gotten good at choosing the right toxins." A chime sounded from the overhead speakers. A female voice, synthesized and oddly cheerful, echoed through the lab. "All students report to Medbay Level 2, Biohazard Protocol Delta activated for Sector 9. Jaren looked up. "Protocol Delta?" Kelarv's eyes shifted to an uneasy blue. "That is for unclassified biological anomalies." The students filed out quickly. Jaren grabbed his datapad and followed, trailing behind the others through the corridor. The ceiling lighting shifted from white to amber as they reached the medical wing. 2 Drill guards flanked the entrance, holding slender containment wands. Inside, the lab was already in organized chaos. Medical officers in sealed suits moved between containment chambers. One held a circular specimen jar filled with translucent fluid, inside which floated a twitching spore-like globule. A supervisor, a conical being with 6 spindly legs named Director Feln, approached them. "You are the hydroponics group?" "Yes," Kelarv answered. "What occurred?" "Unscheduled mutation of the fungal symbiote in Tray Unit 6. It breached containment due to elevated glucose saturation." Jaren stepped forward. "That was me. I boosted the sugar to increase leaf growth." Felon's eyes rotated. "Your intervention triggered an accelerated reproductive cycle in the fungal colony. We now have airborne release." Kelarv hissed softly. "Was it hostile before?" "No," Feln said. "It was dormant. But the new growth phase resembles a terrestrial mold. It's producing mycotoxins." Jaren stared at the sample. "Okay, so what are symptoms?" "Respiratory irritation, fatigue, neurochemical disruption in some species. We've isolated 3 Drill students already." "Let me see their vitals." Feln hesitated. "You are not licensed. I'm not asking to treat them, I'm asking to help interpret the data." After a pause, Feln handed him a slate. Jaren skimmed the charts. Elevated eosinophils, mild inflammation markers, and O2 saturation is only slightly down. It's not critical yet. They've just got allergic reactions. "We anticipated a pathogen," Feln said. "It's a spore. Big difference. It's not replicating inside them, just triggering immune responses." Feln rotated a few of its eyes toward the other med officers. "Then what is your recommendation?" "HEPA filters. Isolate the area, ventilate the spores out, antihistamines if your species tolerates them, maybe corticosteroids for the Drill if the inflammation worsens." You are confident in these methods? They're standard back home. Mold exposure happens in damp buildings all the time. Kelarv stepped closer. You willingly inhabit environments with active fungal spores? We don't like it, but we don't melt from it either. Feln tapped a control on the wall. Begin environmental purge and filter flush. Notify pharmacology to prepare anti-inflammatory agents. As the med team moved, Jaren turned to Kelarv. See, not everything needs a full lockdown. You caused it. Technically, yes, but I also recognized it. That should count for something. Later that day, back in the dorm module, Jaren stripped off his lab coat and dropped onto the sleep mat. His tablet buzzed with an incoming message. A request from the station's educational coordinator. They wanted him to lead a new module, cross-species risk assessment and human tolerance thresholds. He groaned. They're turning me into a curriculum. The next morning, he stood before a new group of students, most of them unfamiliar species, a few bristling or glowing faintly under the room's UV lights. A tall, insectoid creature in the back clicked its appendages together rhythmically. All right, Jaren began. Today's topic, thresholds. How much stress, damage, or exposure can a species endure before failing? And why humans tend to dance right up to that line. A tentacled student flicked 2 appendages upward. Is it true your species can survive without sleep for over 72 hours? It's not recommended, Jaren said. But yes, you'll hallucinate and your cognition drops, but you won't die. Immediately. Another raised a scaled arm. Your cardiovascular system compensates for heat differently than ours. How do you regulate internal temperature? We sweat, Jaren said. Evaporative cooling. We lose water and salt through pores in our skin. Gasps erupted across the room. Wait, said a small, fur-covered being. You excrete fluid onto your exterior? Yes, Jaren said. That's how we don't cook ourselves. That is grotesque, the being whispered. But effective, Jared replied. We can run for hours. Our ancestors hunted prey by outlasting them. More murmurs. Kelarv entered midway through, taking an empty seat near the front. It didn't interrupt, Jaren continued. Pain tolerance, too. It varies between individuals, but humans can push through injury pretty far. It's not about strength, it's about stubbornness. Wow, came a voice from the back. Because survival meant ignoring pain long enough to get away from whatever caused it. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't, but the ones who endured passed on their genes. The insectoid clicked again. And now you teach this endurance as an academic subject. Jaren grinned. We call it sports. When the session ended, Kelarv lingered as the others filed out. You did not cause another biohazard today, it observed. Give it time. Your species is difficult to categorize. That's our specialty. Kelarv tilted its head. Would you assist with a field analysis tomorrow? I am studying the microbial colonies in the waste oxidation tanks. Jaren paused. The sewage processors? Yes. He shrugged. Sure, that actually sounds kind of fun. Your definition of fun is as unstable as your virome. Jaren laughed. Welcome to humanity. By the time Jaren arrived at the waste oxidation tanks the next morning, the artificial daylight cycle had already shifted to pale blue. The corridor outside the bioprocessing deck buzzed with low machinery hum and the occasional vibration underfoot. Fluid circulators, mixing turbines, ozone injectors. He pressed his palm to the access panel and waited as the heavy door depressurized with a hiss. Kelarv stood inside, wearing a sealed filtration suit with its own rebreather pack. It waved a gloved hand without turning. "Yeah, late." "I stopped by the commissary," Germ said, pulling on a protective vest. "Figured we might be down here a while." He reached into his bag and tossed Kelarv a clear pouch filled with something dark green and gelatinous. "What is this?" "Seaweed snack. Humankind. It's salty, it crunches, and it's not made from anything we flushed." Kelarv tucked the pouch into a side pocket, but didn't comment further. It handed Jaren a scanner and gestured toward the nearest access hatch. "We'll start with Tank 3. There was a spike in anaerobic activity yesterday. and the internal sensors are misreading the nitrogen levels. Is it dangerous? Unlikely. But I do not enjoy uncertainty. They climbed down a narrow ladder into a subchamber that smelled faintly metallic, with hints of ammonia and something reminiscent of old mushrooms. The tank itself was sealed behind a transparent polymer barrier. Inside, thick biogel churned slowly, fed by nutrient lines and aeration pumps. Occasional bubbles rose, burst, and released wisps of vapor. So, this is where everything goes, Jaren muttered. Everything you excrete, yes. Glad we're bonding. Kelarv crouched by the sensor relay and began unscrewing the housing with a multi-tool. Jaren moved to the side port and activated his scanner. A few seconds later, the screen flashed red. Whoa, that can't be right. Kelarv turned. What does it show? Hydrogen sulfide levels are off the chart. Like not just microbial metabolism, this is decay on overdrive. Kelarv stood and peered at the display. That is not consistent with input data. The waste composition has not changed significantly. Could be a contaminant, maybe a backflow from the greywater line. We would have received an alert. Jaren rubbed the back of his neck. You said the nitrogen readings were wrong too. Yes. He crouched near the base of the tank and ran a diagnostic on the waste inflow valve. After a few moments, a warning popped up, foreign organic compound detected. Something got in here, he said. It's not sewage or food waste, it's plant matter, but not Earth origin. Kelarv leaned over. How can you tell? Chlorophyll structure's off, wrong magnesium ratio, and the cell walls aren't breaking down like they should. Whatever this stuff is, it's resisting microbial digestion. Kelarv tapped its helmet. I will notify environmental systems. This could impact the reoxygenation cycle. Hold on, Jaren said. If it's blocking breakdown, it might be fermenting instead. That would explain the gas buildup. As if on cue, a low rumble echoed through the chamber. The floor vibrated. Kelarv stiffened. Tank 3 is pressurizing beyond safe limits. Jaren shot to his feet. We need to vent it. Manual override is at the rear panel. They scrambled around the curved wall, boots slipping slightly on the damp floor. At the rear, Jaren yanked the cover off the emergency valve and pulled the lever. Nothing happened. Why is it not opening? Kelarv snapped. Because it's gummed up. This stuff's coating the vents. Another rumble. The tank bulged slightly against its transparent shell, like a balloon about to burst. We need to deflate it before it ruptures. Kelarv grabbed its comm and tried to raise central control. No response. Signal's jammed. Probably the shielding. We will have to breach manually. Jaren blinked. You want to open the tank? Only the upper pressure release port. You're aware that what's in there could launch at us like fermented soup? We have suits. Not for this kind of splash zone. I do not see alternatives. Jaren looked around, then spotted a length of flexible tubing coiled near the wall. He grabbed it and started attaching it to the upper outlet. If we open the port and attach this, we can vent the gas into the exhaust shaft instead of our faces. Kelarv hesitated, then helped with the clamp. Acceptable. They worked fast. With the hose secured, Jaren activated the release valve. A sharp hiss erupted, followed by several seconds of high-pitched whistling as the pressure equalized. A few flecks of greenish foam splattered the inside of the tank wall, but nothing breached containment. The rumbling ebbed. Kelarv checked the readings. Pressure stabilized, gas levels down 30%. See? No explosion, just creative plumbing. They climbed back out of the subchamber. Jaren peeled off his gloves and wiped sweat from his forehead. I'm guessing this isn't standard for your research days. Not typically, Kelarv said, but I find it enlightening. Later, after cleaning up and returning their equipment, they met with the station's environmental systems officer, a crystalline entity named Solth, whose voice sounded like wind chimes caught in a storm. You found what growing in the tank? Solth asked. Some kind of alien plant, Jaren said, probably dumped by a student. It's not breaking down, more like fermenting and gassing up the whole system. Solth shifted color faintly. This could compromise the nutrient reclamation loop. Already did, Kelarv said. I recommend a full flush of Tank 3, Jaren added. And maybe post signs near the disposal chutes. Don't throw unknown alien vegetation into the sewer. Solf made a chiming noise. That has not previously been necessary. Welcome to cultural exchange, Jaren said. 2 hours later, Tank 3 was drained, sterilized, and refilled. The mystery plant was isolated and sent to the lab for analysis. It turned out to be a decorative moss from a student's habitat chamber, genetically modified to glow under low light, but also highly resistant to microbial decay. When the station bulletin went out the next day, it included a new regulation. All non-native flora must be registered before disposal in public systems. Kelarv found Jaren in the lounge, sipping from a steaming cup. You consume liquids immediately after biohazard exposure? It's tea, he said. Chamomile calms the nerves. Kelarv paused, then sat down. You adapted quickly during the containment effort. Wasn't my first near explosion. It is unsettling how often that statement applies to you. They sat in silence for a moment. The lounge windows overlooked the station's docking ring, where small transport ships hovered and rotated in slow arcs. Jaren tapped his cup. You know, the more time I spend up here, the more I realize we all think we're the normal ones. Statistically, no one is. Exactly, so we might as well learn from each other, even if that means figuring out which alien moss not to flush. Keller's eyes blinked asynchronously. You are flawed, but functional. I'll take that as a compliment. I intended it as one. Then, in that case, Jaren said, raising his cup, to flawed functionality. Kelarv raised an imaginary glass in return. Neither of them spoke again for a while. And for once, nothing exploded.